Next step is to spell and pronounce these 10 words again. Again, to have our second encounter of these words and to, okay, once we learn pronunciation, spelling of these 10 words, let's probably do a little bit exercise. So let me read through exercise Q first for you. You have taken 2 long steps toward mastery of the expressive words in this chapter. That is chapter number 3, to describe personality types. You have thought about ideas behind them, and you have said them loud. For your third step, match each personality with the appropriate characteristics, action, or attitude. Okay? So basically, we're going to match the words on the left and the definitions on the right. So let's go from the first word, number 1, egotist. If you remember that word, that word is to describe or characterize, is to characterize type of personality who is very self-interested, okay, or selfish. So let's look to the right of all the definitions and find that the definition. So A is turns thoughts inward. Well, that probably looks more like a definition for another word we talk about. It does not have any connotation of selfishness. So hate marriage, well, B, that's kind of remotely related, or should I say unrelated. Number C, C talks about accomplishments. Yeah, but does not have emphasis on self-advancement or self-interest. Hates people. D. E is does not pursue pleasure of the flesh. Well, probably the opposite, right? Very likely for egoist. F is interest in the welfare of others, probably the direct opposite. G believes in self-advancement. So I'm gonna pick that one, and I could be wrong. Right? I'm just working on these problems on the fly. And second one is egotist. If you remember, I already talked about the difference between egoist and egotist while I was covering these words in the previous slides, right? The difference is that egoist is selfish, as opposed to egotist is self-centered. So a self-centered personality does not necessarily have to advance one's own interests always. There's a lot of overlap, but here there's of course, a nuanced difference. So if you remember the kind of words, definitions on the right I just talked about would be what? Me first, but not necessarily what? Selfish. We already picked the definition for selfish, right? Believes in self-advancement. That is for egoist. How about definition that kind of puts one first, especially one's accomplishments, right? That would be C. Talks about accomplishments. Altruist. Well, altruist, if you remember, is what? Is to help others, okay? Sometimes even at the expense of one's own interest, right? So it gotta be someone who, what? Is interested in the welfare of others. Introvert, well, that would be what? Turns thoughts inward. Introvert. Extrovert, let's see. Well, it's pretty obvious, right? If we turn thoughts inward for introvert, then turn thoughts outward would be extrovert. J. Ambivert, right? Ambivert, well, would be somewhere in between or even covering both. So that would be turn thoughts both inward and outward. Misanthrope, basically the person who hates what? Humankind. So it hates people, hates people. Misogynist, the person who hates women. That's pretty easy, right? To pick. That's I. Misogamist, and that would be a person who hates marriage. That is B here. Oh, here I have a lot of spaghetti lines, so I'm trying to avoid having having all the connecting lines messed up too much, right? Misogamist would be a person who what? Who hates marriage, right? Who hates marriage. And then there's only last word left. That's ascetic. Ascetic would be a person who what? Does not pursue pleasure or, excuse me, of the flesh, right? That is E. Ascetic corresponds to the definition or description of ascetic corresponds to E. Does not pursue pleasure of the flesh. Okay. And let's check the answer, right? So is one, egoist is G, that is believes in self-advancement. Two, egotist. Is it C? Talks about accomplishments? Yes, talks about accomplishments. If you remember, the kind of one phrase descriptor of that word would be what? Is on the height of conceit, on the height of conceit, right? So here I would say for C probably should have added, let's say, talks about one's own accomplishments, one's own accomplishments. That would be most precise. Number three, altruist. Altruist. So here it says it's F. Well, is interest in the welfare of others. Correct. We're correct. Number four, introvert. A. So turns thoughts inward. Turns thoughts inward. Again, we're correct. Number five, extrovert. Extrovert. And it is J. So it turns thoughts outward. Turn thoughts outward. Correct. Number six is ambivert. Ambivert is, here the answer is H. So let's check out H. Turns thoughts both inward and outward. Correct. Number seven, misanthrope. Misanthrope hates people. D, correct. Number eight, misogynist. Misogynist is hates women. Correct. Number nine, misogamist. B, hates marriage. Hates marriage, person who hates marriage. Correct. Again. Number 10, ascetic. That is E, does not pursue pleasures of the flesh. Again, we're right. We're right. Okay. And I'm going to stop here.